Hello mga kasubs and welcome to Sarcicos TV. It's I woke up early so that I can share with you some of my upgrades mods with my 1911. The time is actually 6 p. Hello mga kasubs and welcome to Sarcicos TV. My name is Mark. Today I'll share with you some upgrades that you or some just hacks you might want to consider with your 1911, especially those who owns like those GI or those basic models. Before I share with you my list, may I ask for some loving by like, subscribe, and then that bell notification so that whenever we have new content or contents, you'll be the first to know. The first thing I would like to share let's grab this one. In the Philippines, we are, when it comes to rounds, we whatever we can get our hands on, that's what we use. So most firearm users that I know will use reloads, or those casings that have been spent. They just put in powder and then put in a new primer and then add a bullet, and that's the type of ammunition that they will use because it's way cheaper, almost somewhere around half the price of a new ammunition. What we do so that the firearm is able to feed on those kinds of ammo is we do what we call throating. Here's an example of a 1911 frame. Throating is where a gunsmith, a reputable gunsmith, will use a Dremel tool and work his magic on this part of the frame. So here's what it looks like when the frame is throated. So this part is a bit wider, and I'm not sure if they angled it in some way, but basically the purpose of this is to allow the firearm to feed on any rounds, especially those reloads. So throating will cost you around the hundreds. So if you are not using new ammunition, then I encourage you to do this. But of course, before you make any modifications, I suggest that you break in the firearm by using the ammunition that you will frequently use, so that you can tell and decide whether it is best to do throating or not. Because once you throat that part of the frame, you cannot bring it back to its original state, because you are actually taking out or shaving some pieces of metal, and it can't be. Not sure, I haven't heard of a reverse throating procedure, but there you have it. Second, I would consider is changing your sights. There are a lot of sights out there, by the way. Again, it will depend on your preference, so you need to do some research. Luckily, the 1911 that I own is not a GI series, so it is already equipped with an fiber optic front sight. It is easy to see, especially during daylight. And then the rear sight is I forgot what it's called. I think a Bomar style, or Bomar style rear sight. What I like about this rear sight is there's an adjustment here and here on top, which allows you to adjust the windage and the elevation. This is just an additional. I put in some what do you call this, nail polish for me to easier see or align the front and rear sight, just like so. See, I can even do it even when I'm looking through the camera. A front and rear sight may cost some, a substantial amount, but I can attest that this is worthy, or a cost will be worth the benefit that it would bring to your firearm. The third upgrade I would recommend is a trigger job. A trigger job is just literally something that will be done on your trigger. For a 1911, it has a certain pressure for it to release the hammer, somewhere between 4 pounds to 6 pounds. For those who use this for competitive shooting and for like law enforcement and stuff, some of them would prefer a light trigger. So a trigger job can do that. From 4 to 6 pounds, they can put it somewhere at between 2 to 3, or maybe even lower. In my opinion, it will always depend on when or where you will use it, and your preference as well, because a light trigger can also be can also pose some risk, because it does not give you a certain slack, or it reduces some slack, because sometimes a soft touch or soft squeeze can result to the hammer dropping, and may result to a what they call it, an AD, or accidental discharge. Another thing you can do with the trigger job is to eliminate the slack. The slack is like the space between, when the trigger is not pressed and when it's about to be pressed. So I'll press it a bit to show you the slack of my firearm. Okay, you see that one? So that is like the slack of my firearm. So when I put my trigger and then squeeze it a bit, there's like a little slack before you can actually pull it and then release the hammer, so that for the hammer to drop. The trigger with a trigger job, you can also ask the gunsmith to have that removed. As a shooter myself, I would prefer with this one where there is still a slack, since the 1911 by nature has a crisp trigger, and I think the 4 to 6 pound weight works for me. Next upgrade that I would recommend would be either a recoil spring or a full-length guide rod. If you're using a standard 1911 or a GI, it has a plug. See? So that means when the slide moves backward, the spring gets like uber compressed. And also with the GI series, it's not really a guide rod. You will find some sort of, it's just like a small rod like this short. So that means there is a gap between the plug, which is here, and then the actual plug from this end. So what happens is the spring, when compressed, may tend to bend a bit, just like this, because there's nothing to guide it as it compresses. And that's the purpose of this guide rod. So when you buy a guide rod, it comes with this and some sort of plug, but it has a hole, so that when the slide moves backwards, so something like this, the guide rod will go out, will stick out as and the spring will have this guide as it compresses. So it is said that it allows a smoother shooting experience when you have this full length guide rod. Another option, so if you have a couple more thousands is to get what we call a they call it a recoil buster. So it looks like this. So just like the standard guide rod, it has the spring and this plug. This one has the same spring and the plug, but the guide rod is actually thinner, and then it has some guide rods, some recoil busters have one. So this one has two springs, one that goes on top and then the other at the bottom. As the name suggests, it reduces the recoil, so that's the purpose. And I would say that it does. It is the motion of the slide is much smoother, and it's easier to rack compared to a normal full length guide rod with spring. The next upgrade I would suggest or recommend would be a magwell. A magwell is found at the bottom where you feed the magazine. So this is an example of a magwell. The purpose of this part is to serve as a guide for the shooter or the firearm user when he inserts the magazine. Sometimes it also adds comfort when you rest this part of your hand. You can also rest it in the magwell, but it depends on the size of the magwell. I actually have two examples. This one is a smaller magwell. As you can see, it's just the size of the grip, and it has a cut here. My guess is this portion is for you to be able to pull out the magazine in case it does not fall when you press the release button. The one that I showed you earlier is a little bigger. Not too big, but bigger than the previous one. Okay. There are magwells that are much bigger than this one, but I'm not really a fan of that. For me, it is just like it just adds too much weight, so I don't prefer that. There are different magwells. This one is just the magwell itself, but you will also see magwells that also comes with this part of the frame. It's like a spring housing. That one is much more expensive. This one is I believe is the most affordable, since it's just a small magwell that goes to your frame. And this is like a bonus. My bonus upgrade that I would recommend, something that is relatively cheap and something you can do, is the use of tape. There are two tapes that I would recommend. Number one is that tape that is used to cover the target boards, that kind of tape. And the other one is the what is normally called a grip tape. Let's start with the target. I'll just call it a target board tape. Most people who don't their feedback with the 911 is the presence of a grip safety. If you don't press this one as you hold the firearm, it won't go off or it won't fire. So my temporary solution for that, especially when let's say for example when you are competing and you don't want that to get in the way, we use grip tape, or sorry, the tape to press the grip safety. So basically that's just it. It disables the grip safety. If you are decided to eliminate it, then you can go to a gunsmith and delete the grip safety. So they're gonna do something inside and then make it fixed like this, but without the tape. Again, those kinds of changes may pose some risk. So then the shooter needs to be aware of what they are doing and the effect so that they know what they are getting into as they do those changes. Personally, I do that only when I am competing. When I was starting, but as I get comfortable with the firearm, when you keep using the same firearm over and over, your hand gets acquainted with the grip, or with the grip part of the firearm. I would probably recommend that for those who have small hands and prefer and prefers a full size 1911, because I've seen people who have small hands and they shoot full size 1911s and are unable to fire, and then when we look for the issue, what's driving that, it turns out is that their hand is not enough to press the grip safety. The other tape that I'm recommending is called a grip tape, but if you go to the hardware store, I'm not really sure if it's called the grip tape, but just imagine a sandpaper with adhesive on the other side, just like a tape. And these ones are used for stairs. You would notice when you're climbing some stairs, they have that grip thingy on the edge of every step. That is the cheaper alternative than actually buying a grip tape from a gun store, because if it's from a gun store, they'll say that it's special or something. But I've been using the grip tape from the hardware store and never gave me a problem. So here's an example. I added grip tape on this part, and then the other side of my firearm, and I also put it on this part of the frame so that it reminds me to rest my finger when I am not shooting, or when I'm not yet ready to shoot. The purpose of the grip tape, adds grip, and sometimes when you are racking the slide, it allows you different options. You can it gives you better grip when you're doing this type of racking, or maybe if you rack from this part of the slide and not here. So it allows you more options. And sometimes the metal part of the 1911 gets slippery at times, so it is a great help. And this one also promotes some sort of safety, because it reminds you that whenever you're not ready to shoot, you should not leave this area of the frame. So that's my my safety reminder. And one more area that I would recommend where you put a grip tape is the I think this is called the front strap, or maybe this part of the firearm, if it doesn't have those texturing or grooves or what have you. By putting a grip tape in this area, it gives you better traction on your firearm. So putting grip tape will be completely up to your preference. As you do some range time with your firearm, you get to determine which works and which does not work for you. So my advice is go to the range and use your firearm to identify which of those upgrades that I recommended will suit your needs. And there you have it. Those are my recommendations. Thank you for watching the Sarsicles TV. Stay safe, shoot smart, and I'll see you on the next video.